Everybody, please excuse me. I've been a little bit under the weather this week, so my voice is a little bit crackly still. But I just wanted to take a few minutes and discuss the ACA Code of Ethics and Informed Consent here in the state of Virginia. I went on to a local counseling website, the Hanover Counseling Practice, which is near where I live. And I went in and I printed that off and I compared that to the ACA Code of Ethics. And while the ACA Code of Ethics discussing informed consent is a lot more lengthy than what I found on the website, the Hanover Counseling Association, they definitely included all of the areas that the ACA Code of Ethics touches upon in informed consent. So when looking at the Hanover Counseling Associates, the first thing they discuss is the client and therapist relationship. And it's a brief statement, they just do touch on how it's unethical to engage in any other type of relationship other than a client-counselor relationship and how those boundaries should be maintained. They discuss how gifts are not appropriate, and this is all being presented to the client prior to an engagement into a client counseling relationship. Then they go on to discuss about available services and also what type of licensed practitioners they have in their practice. In the ACA Code of Ethics, they talk about how nobody should portray themselves as somebody that they're not, and that everybody practicing should be licensed in their area and engage in only skills and competencies that they have been trained for. They also talked about risks and benefit and how counseling and psychotherapy is beneficial. However, everything comes with a risk, and they just want to put that out there. While the counselors are expected to incorporate everything they can to prevent any harm, sometimes that may not always be able to happen, since there are things in counseling that can, bring up feelings of sadness and grief and anger. So they do portray that in their informed consent. They also talk about appointments and fees and things that they will be responsible for financially, and those are also addressed in the Code of Ethics. And then they talk about emergencies, and confidentiality was another big thing that they discussed. And in their informed consent in Hanover, they did discuss how there are limitations as far as confidentiality goes. If somebody's being abused, if somebody's in danger of harming themselves or somebody else, if there is anything like AIDS or HIV that could potentially cause infection or possible transmission of that. They also discussed about mandated clients. So every once in a while, clients will be mandated through court. The information that the client provides in that session may have to be shared with the court. In the end, Hanover talked about a duty to protect. So what they did is they took the ACA Code of Ethics and they aligned it with their informed consent. Obviously, they condensed down quite a bit. This also goes in a line with the LPC rules and regulations here in the state of Virginia. And the first rule and regulation that they talked about was ensuring confidentiality. And then they talked about avoiding dual relationships. And then they also touched upon that if a client is receiving services from another counselor, the client in the informed consent is going to want to have been granted communication privileges with the other professional. One of the articles that I read was from 2012, written by Peace Carter. It was a study that was done talking about informed consent, and in that study they just wanted to highlight how important it is that informed consent is embedded in accredited programs for counseling students, as this is a form of protection for not just counselors, but for students who are practicing during their program and obtaining the counseling license. So they just wanted to highlight that it's very important to always have an informed consent to protect yourself, protect the client, and really it's just a way to keep things safe for everybody. So I hope that you all have a great afternoon. Thank you.